Hey everybody, it's Never, and welcome to Storytime with Never. Today we continue the Bleat story, Bleat, Part 3, The Dream. Harrow tried to break through the haze in his mind. It was as if he were dreaming and unable to wake. Groaning voices, a murky green sky, and the stench of death overwhelmed his senses. He was not even sure if he was alive. Now and then a glimpse of something real would flicker past his eyes, only to be swallowed by the fog that swallowed all outside of the solitude of his thoughts. He fought against it, trying to regain control, but it was too strong, and for a time he floated around and around in himself, lost to time and space, a soul haunting its own body. After an eternity, he awoke. His eyes were still closed, but he quickly remembered how to move them, and their lids parted, revealing a gray sky bordered by tall pines. Sounds returned to him, a crow calling, the wind in the pines, someone's lamentation. Soon he began to notice the sensation of his own skin, though somewhat differently than he had recalled in his life that was far away and long past. With an effort, he pressed against the earth and brought himself upright. There were others around him, but they were all dead. What had happened? Where was the prison? He sat there in the grass, his arms at his side, looking for the last thing he could remember. Images faded in and out before his mind's eye, a fountain of water, the bars of his cell, a crate of foodstuffs for the prisoners to eat. Something about that crate was important, but try as he might, it wouldn't come. Then unbidden, the image of the courtroom floor, splattered with his own blood, rushed into his mind, and he reached for his jaw, only to find an empty space. A shudder passed through him, and he dared not touch his face for fear of what he might find, or might not find. He closed his eyes and shook his head in an attempt to banish the idea from his mind, but the chilly air against what had to be the inside of his mouth and neck only made the horror real. Fear assaulted him, and he felt his heart racing within him. Even that had a wrongness to it. It felt too loose, too varied, as if it were somehow broken. He looked around for something, anything familiar or comforting, and when he glanced the bony, fleshless hand at the end of his own arm, he screamed. He felt a presence loom over him from behind, and a pair of hands took hold of him by the shoulders. The arms constricted around him, muffling his broken voice. There. Easy now, fella. You're all right. You're fine. Just calm down. That's it. Right like that. Now, I'm going to let you go, and you're going to be calm and listen to me. Understand? He nodded earnestly, wheezing a little through his jawless breaths. The grip around him relaxed, and calmly as he could, he got to his feet, but dared not look at them as he did. There were 3 others. The one that had released him stood closest, wearing a heavy robe that was tattered and dirty, a hood obscuring most of his face. The others were a few steps behind, and hard to discern in the dark. "All right," the robed one began. "Now that you've stopped your bleating, we can get to introductions and get those out of the way." He indicated himself with a sick-looking hand. "I'm Bartholomew. Last name doesn't matter. And this is Carol and Sean." He pointed over and to each as he named them. "Only Carol's the guy and Sean's the girl," he laughed. It was an unpleasant sound, as if the man were laughing out his last breath. "Some people's kids, eh?" he said. "Trying to be all modern with their backwards names. Anyway, I'd ask you yours, but I reckon the cat's got your tongue?" He scratched his head through his robe. No, I can do better than that," he said to himself in a low voice. "How about, the truth bites sometimes? No, that's worse. It'll be hard for you to face your fears. Oh, never mind." Sean stepped around Bartholomew and came into view. She wore heavy armor that looked like it had been passed down by a dozen generations of very poor fighters. Scratched and dented everywhere, with equally shoddy greatsword slung onto her back. "If he can't tell us his name," she said with a shrug, "then we best make one for him. He hasn't got a group, and if we leave him to die, the Alliance will burn him to bits." The mention of the Alliance was a surge of hope, followed by almost immediately by a crushing disbelief. Why would the Alliance kill him? Sure, he had been a prisoner, but nothing he did was punishable by death. "I say we call him Bleat, on account of his bleating like a lost lamb when we found him," Bartholomew said. Carol made an agreeing tone in a deep voice. Bartholomew nodded and brought his hands together. So be it. Bleat, you'll come with us or die again. Sound good to you? It was all too much to take in. It had to be a dream. A bad dream. He would go with Bartholomew and Sean and Carol, and eventually he would wake up in the morning before he went to the fountain. Something he had read in his studies had set this off. Yes, that had to be it. Just a dream, just a terrifying dream. Hope glowed dimly within him, providing strength to see the nightmare through. He nodded to Bartholomew and even clasped his hands together in a gesture of thanks. "All right," Sean said with a grin that revealed rotting teeth. "Come on then, Bleat, stay with us, and do try not to live up to your name. Not all of us have come too." He made a grunting noise as he tried to speak. Then, frustrated, he pulled at her shoulder and indicated the group with a gesture. Sean raised her eyebrows and nodded. "Yeah, us, you know? The dead." Thank you for watching Storytime with Never. Okay, thanks, bye.